Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it's all ball all the time. You are here with your hosts, Sean and Isaiah. This is episode number 13. Today we're going to talk about some Rockets, John Morant versus Trea Young, and ended up with some James Harden talk. But before all that, Isaiah, how you feeling today, man?
Before we continue, I want to point out, I really hate when funny coincidences happen, because as the last episode released, both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown had a good game in the same game. As I was talking about how I have never seen it happen, or at least don't remember it happening. And then it just happens. And it just completely ruined the whole point that I was trying to make.
That's literally like everything that happens with takes, and like you'll say something and then like the next day you look like an idiot, and
Exactly.
your take gets whole like ruined.
Oh, yeah. But aside from that funny situation, man, the Rockets have really been disappointing in this streak of losing games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we can start off with our Sunday game since we couldn't cover it in the previous episode. And I mean, outside of Jalen Green going off and setting a new Rockets rookie record for threes, the team looked pretty bad that game, with the exception of Jason Tate. He looked pretty good. But yeah, outside of that, first of all, we couldn't stop Jason Tatum, even if we tried. It just wasn't happening.
Right.
And outside of that, yeah, we just looked really awkward and a whole lot of turnovers, especially from Kevin Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just outside of Jalen Green, it wasn't a very entertaining game.
Yeah, that's what's been killing us basically all year is the turnovers. And I get that KPJ's, still getting adjusted to that role of playmaking. But, I mean, I feel like it's more just being smart with the ball. Yeah. Rather than like his actual ball handling skills, because I think he's a good ball handler.
Yeah, he's just good with the handles. The problem is his playmaking, so to speak. He tries to force passes too much rather than letting the pass create itself. Yeah, because if you're not one of those natural born playmakers like Lonzo and LaMelo, Chris Paul, LeBron, somebody like that, who can force a pass and it works.
Yeah.
And if you try to force passes, you're just going to get more turnovers than assists. Yeah, so that's what his problem is, and it's why he's getting more turnovers than assists. He's trying to force the pass too much. But I don't know if it's because his attacking the rim isn't working, or if it's because he doesn't want to attack the rim as much, because he's trying to force the passes, and that's why the attacking isn't working. But either way it goes, between the turnovers and the attacking the rim, one of them is causing the other one to suffer.
Right. And honestly, it would be nice if I didn't have to watch my team get scorched by role players. Like we're getting scorched by Grant Williams. Like, bro, come on, man. 3 for 5. Tim Hardaway. I mean, Tim Hardaway, you know what? He's always done that to the Rockets. So, I mean, I guess I give it a pass. But literally, like, last night, we were getting torn apart by Eric Pascal and Jordan Clarkson. Like, bro, come on. Not Eric Pascal.
Yeah, like, we can give Jordan Clarkson a break, 6th man of the year. But Eric Pascal, Pascal, however you say it. What?
Yeah, come on, bro. Like, he was dominating this whole game. He was getting boards. He was shooting the 3 well. I don't know, man. It just sucks to see like the role players go off on their team, because, as a team that's rebuilding like us, you would expect to give up a lot of points to the star players. But, you would at least hope to hold down the guys that aren't supposed to be doing that to you. But, I mean, I guess it just really just shows the flaws that we have on defense still.
Yeah, and you see, I'm not even necessarily sure why our team has such an issue defensively, because it's not like our players aren't physically capable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something in their defensive IQ that's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only players that I think can get an excuse for their size or their like physicality are Christian Wood and Jalen Green because they're both very skinny for their position.
Right.
But yeah, outside of those two, Kevin Porter Jr. is pretty reasonably sized. Daniel Tice, he's actually been pretty good defensively in terms of with his man.
Yeah.
And even on some help defense, he's been good too. So I can't really get on him. Jayshawn Tate, he's been pretty solid too. And then Shingun's been good, especially with help defense too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, outside of those, everyone else has just been kind of average on defense or worse.
So for me, I want to talk about Shingun.
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed is that he has good fundamentals, but he doesn't have like excellent fundamentals. I feel like the stuff that we've seen that's been really good from him is just really flashy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think it was yesterday that he drop stepped on someone in the post and he went for a layup instead of a dunk when he had a wide open
Mm-hmm.
dunk and he completely like botched the layup.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just he's not sure when to do certain things yet at the NBA level because I mean I'm sure it's different at in Europe or whatever wherever he played.
Mm-hmm. Turkey.
Yeah, Turkey. So I don't know. I feel like he just has to continue to work on the fundamentals before he can really expand his other stuff. But I did like his shooting though. His 3-point shooting. He's knocked down 2 so far in the last 2 games. So I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another thing about him is I don't know if it's because of his athleticism or because it's just not something that he has the mentality for, but he really seems to not go for dunks when they're there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is a change that could drastically boost his performance on the court because he misses too many shots. Or in some cases, Luka looks like a defensive player of the year and comes and blocks his shot
Mm-hmm.
because he's going for layups instead of dunks when he's right there and he's 6'10, 6'11.
Luka Gobert. But no, I mean yeah, like you said, I think that would like drastically help him. It's just very small, simple stuff that he could do that really can put him over like another notch. But one thing I did like that the Rockets did, well, more I guess so Steven Silas, was that in this last game we weren't doing anything offensively, so he put in some guys like Armani Brooks and Kenyon Martin
Mm-hmm.
to get like a spark plug, I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't really work,
Yeah, I
but
was just about to say it didn't work, but
yeah, I
at
like
least he did
the
it.
yeah, at least he tried to get something going, and I like to see that because like I feel like most of those guys on our bench deserve some kind of play.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
So yeah, it's just something I really enjoyed watching yesterday, even though they didn't really get anything going.
Yeah, I hope that he can keep that going moving forward because while it didn't work tonight, you never know when somebody can go off and have a game.
Yeah.
So it's always good to reach into that bench depth when your starting guys all seem to not have it going.
Yeah, especially like Armani Brooks, who can get hot in a minute really
Mm-hmm.
quickly, especially with his 3-point shooting. Kenyon Martin, I see more as someone who can defend the rim really well. And we
Mm-hmm.
saw how well he blocked shots last year on these 7-footers. And I think his offensive game will come around, but like I said, more defensively is where I see him
Oh yeah,
on
I
like the
think
role.
where I see him offensively is just developing his off-ball game. I don't really see him needing to develop on the ball that much.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can make the right cuts so people can hit him for lobs or nice bounce passes, or if he can spot up for the three and hit those consistently, that's really all we need from him for him to be a good contributing, consistent player on our team.
Yeah, I see him something along the lines of like a taller, more athletic PJ Tucker.
Okay.
Like spot up in the corner and
Hmm.
just play good solid defense. Don't really do much on ball.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think I'd want him to be a little bit more active off the ball than PJ Tucker is. PJ Tucker really just stands there in the corner for the most part.
Yeah,
Unless it's a
that's true.
specific play, like where he's a handoff or setting a screen or something. Yeah, but outside of those situations, he really does just spot up. But I want to see Kenyon Martin actually move, make some good cuts or something, just not just stand there in the corner.
Yeah, because he's a really good finisher. So
Exactly.
him cutting to the rim and getting some lobs would be great.
And it'll
Um,
be good to get him going because you never know. One, two back to back lobs could just spark something in him to just go off.
that's true. Also, I mean, the kid's only 20 years old. Also, so he has a lot of time to grow, and I think that running him now would probably be the best bet because I mean, I think he's shown that he can run with the NBA so far, even last year's rookie year.
Hmm.
Was there any other player that you want to talk about or specific game? I know we kind of got away from going like game by game, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was no need to go game by game. It was essentially the same problem every game:
right.
turnovers, missing easy shots, and throwing up bad shots, and
Mm-hmm.
then bad defense. That's essentially the formula for our past three games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last night's game was pretty bad shooting wise. We were very bad from the 3 point line.
Yeah, especially Jalen Green going 0 for 8. Yeah, that's very tough, especially considering that it would be 0 for 8 when he set the Rockets rookie record for threes with 8.
Yeah,
So it just
over
horrible
glorified,
irony.
over glorified Dion Waiters.
Got Evelyn Mobley instead.
Yeah, no, I'm still happy with Green. I think his shot will come around eventually, more consistently. But all right. Well, you ready to go ahead and move on to the next topic?
Yeah, we can move. We can move.
All right. So the next topic is going to be Morant versus Trea Young. You want to go ahead and get into that one? You were the one that kind of suggested that we talk about this, so I'll let you go ahead and take the floor on this one.
Okay, so I first want to start this by saying this debate kind of sounds out of nowhere, considering that when we did our top 25 current players ranking, Morant was not on either of our lists. And we both had Trea Young at the exact same spot. I believe it was 17. But either way it goes, just
I don't remember.
the fact that we both had him somewhere in the middle of that list when we didn't have Ja on the list at all, it could kind of sound crazy to have this comparison. But at the same time, I think that ranking specifically for Trea Young was heavily influenced by just what he did in the playoffs. And it leads me to something funny. I really hate that people overuse recency bias when they're trying to negate a point that somebody makes, because recency bias applies practically everywhere at this point. People were hyping up Trea Young in the playoffs, still hyping him up now. But then when Ja gets the treatment, all of a sudden it's recency bias. It's recency bias for both, or it's not, but whatever. Besides the point. I want to just keep going and say, I think that there is a legitimate comparison to be made here. And I personally am taking Morant because he's noticeably more consistent as a player, because he doesn't rely so much on deep jump shots for his
Mm.
game to get going. And while he's not necessarily a good or great defender himself, he's definitely better than Trea Young on that end.
Right.
So yeah, just between those two things, I would take Ja Morant over Trea Young.
So for me, I personally think John Morant's had a better season so far.
Mm-hmm.
I do think though that Trea Young is probably the better player at the moment still,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think John Morant can reach the level that Trea Young is.
Okay.
I think he has that potential. Obviously, his jump shot is not near Trea Young's yet. I think it's coming around, but I think John Morant is almost as good as playmaker as Trea Young is.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a better defender because
Mm-hmm.
Trea Young can't defend anything. John Morant's more athletic. We've seen him put have some nasty dunks,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is for Trea Young, I think he's thrived more because of the teammates he's had. Like
Exactly.
he has Capella, who's a great lob threat. So is John Collins, and I think those two guys, helping him out with those assists, those playmaking stuff.
Not to mention how many great spot up shooters he has.
Yeah, Kevin Herter,
Bogdanovich.
hmm
Yeah.
even Gallinari, kind of.
Mm-hmm. And
So
DeAndre Hunter to some extent too. So
yeah, so I mean, he really has the tools around him that have helped him thrive. I don't think you're, with Kyle Anderson on your team. You're not really. Like, no offense, Kyle Anderson, he's not a bad player at all, but he's no, you know, Kevin Herter shooting wise or anything like that.
yeah. And then outside of that, when we look at Ja's equivalent to John Collins, Jaren Jackson Jr., that was a lot of J's in a short span. But
Yeah,
but outside of that, if we look at him, first of all, he was injured last year.
yeah,
So that drastically hurt the Grizzlies' chances of really making any real noise in the playoffs.
mm,
And then even outside of that, Jaren Jackson Jr. has a problem with fouls a lot.
mm,
So it can take him out of games, whereas John Collins doesn't have that issue so much.
right,
So it also can hurt the ability for the team to really get anything going outside of Ja when the guy who's supposed to be that second star can't stay on the court because he can't stop fouling people.
mm-hmm.
And I will admit, some of that is just the refs making terrible calls against him, but a lot of it is also his fault. And
So okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like it's unfair to bring the Eastern Conference Finals appearance as some kind of real reasoning to put Trea Young over Ja.
So you think at this point Ja is better than Trae Young?
I think that they're comparable, and I think it's a legitimate toss up. You can pick whoever you want, and I
Mm-hmm.
personally would just take Ja over Trea. If
Okay.
somebody were to take Trea over Ja, I would understand that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Trea probably has the higher ceiling as where he is as a current player. Like, I think his maximum that he could reach at the current moment is higher than the maximum that Ja could reach in any given game because
Yeah.
his jump shot is just so much better when it's on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think based on where they are now, there could be a game where Trea Young goes for 50 and 10 or 50 and 15. Whereas for Ja, because he's not as much of a shooter, unless the refs are really giving him those free throws, I don't think I could see him crack past 45.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but still, both of those would be amazing games. So that's why I think it's comparable at least.
So this has to do more with the Grizzlies. This next question has to has more to do with the Grizzlies than the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, actually, it has nothing to do with the Hawks, but I think the Southwest Division is still up for grabs between the Mavs, Grizzlies, and I don't see the Pelicans winning it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's now just between the Mavs and Grizzlies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see Ja carrying the rest of carrying the Grizzlies the rest of the year to win this division?
Well, with Luka's inconsistency and Porzingis just being straight up awful, yeah, I could see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Because, like I said earlier, about a month and a half ago, I don't think the Mavs are going to win the division. I said that I wasn't even sure if they were going to make the playoffs. So, like I said, also because they didn't make any like significant moves in the offseason, I think they
Mm-hmm.
should have traded away Porzingis for something better.
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, because I don't think that fit wins more than maybe getting you into the second round of the playoffs if Luka could carry, but
But yeah,
that's about as far as I could see them going.
yeah, no, I definitely do not see a team with Porzingis as he currently is making it past the second round. I could barely even see them making it to the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely not making it past the second round. And in
Right.
all honesty, the Mavericks have been pretty terrible, but they've just been fortunate to play against some bad teams to get some good wins.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Raptors haven't been awful. They've been a pretty solid team, but they played the Raptors who were somewhat on the same level as them pretty much. But then they played us. We were having a terrible night. So that's easy win. And even
Yeah.
so, it was an easy win and they only won by 10. So
Right.
that says a lot. And then they barely scraped out a win against the Spurs. So, yeah, I really don't think that they could take the division if the Grizzlies keep on the same path that they've been on.
Mm-hmm. So, is there another point guard out there? Like, okay, I want to throw in another player just to see where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
Say De'Aaron Fox into the conversation of John Morant and Trea Young. Where do you have Fox at?
I think he's definitely below the both of them. He's not the playmaker that either of them are, and he's not the scorer that either of them are either.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to put them in tiers, Ja and Trey are definitely on the tier above the tier De'Aaron Fox is in.
Mm-hmm. So, can you see De'Aaron Fox reaching that same tier or that same potential or level that they're in eventually?
I'd have to really watch some Kings games to really get that conclusion because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if the way his numbers are like based on factors outside of him himself or if
Right.
it's actually him.
Right.
So I'll have to watch some Kings games before I can really give you an answer on that. But based on my largely uninformed Kings knowledge, I don't think he can reach that level at the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what can happen. I mean, look at Miles Bridges having a breakout year. So anybody could just explode to a new level at any moment. But based on his current trajectory, I don't see De'Aaron Fox being on their level.
Yeah, I think he'll always just be like a little bit below. Like you said, he's not really the playmaker. I think he's a good enough scorer to where he can kind of keep up with them. I mean, he's not right at that level, but I think he's pretty close. But playmaking, he's nowhere near them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Thank you to Miles Bridges for having a great season because he's carrying my fantasy squad right now. Uh, yeah, so I'm really thankful that he's doing really good. All right, so you want to go ahead and move on to our next topic, or well,
Yeah.
I guess our last topic. All right, so last topic is going to be James Harden and his struggles this year. That man looks not only out of shape, but just out of, I don't know. Can you explain a little more? Because he doesn't look like James Harden. He looks like mm, I don't even know what.
You see, on the contrary, I think he looks exactly like James Harden. He looks
Really?
like James Harden if the refs had called the game as the game should be called for these past however many years. James Harden has built his career off exploiting the fact that he could create contact with the defender and get the calls.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reason why he was able to average 30 plus 3 years in a row, and why he could still have 30 and 40-point games even though he was shooting 27% from the field.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden was a master at I was going to say baiting, but he's a master at fabricating fouls and creating contact, but somehow still getting it called as a defensive foul.
So, do you think it was okay? So let's say James doesn't even average over 25 points this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this takes away from his legacy? Looking back at how he was able to reach those 30-point per game seasons.
Okay, let me put it like this. Because I am personally very biased against James Harden. As I've stated many times, I never really liked him that much, even when he was a Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, I still don't think you can take that away from his legacy, because at the end of the day, those scoring titles are still going to be there next to his name.
Right.
That MVP is still going to be next to his name. You can't remove those, even though he's regressed now if the game stays the way it is.
I definitely think it'll stay the way it is. I think it should stay the way it
Oh,
is
yeah,
too,
it
because
should, but you never know.
it makes the game a lot more fun to watch. I was never like really against the free throw thing
Mm-hmm.
for anything like that, but I think not seeing those fouls get called that shouldn't be getting called
Mm-hmm.
is a lot better for the game, a lot better for just the referees in general, because they're not getting slandered as much now, which is, I think, better for the NBA population. So we don't have something to complain about when our team's not doing, well.
I think the refs are still getting slandered a lot. They're just not getting, well, really, they're not even getting slandered. They're still getting harassed and clowned, because slandered implies that they're doing their job well and we were unfairly criticizing them. But no, the refs were and still are pretty bad. They've just gotten slightly less bad.
They just have a what do you call it? A reason not to be, calling those bad fouls or whatever.
Exactly. There's still plenty of other ridiculous calls. First of all, the fact that Jalen Green didn't take free throws until his fifth game, that
Yeah.
says a lot about how the refs have been this year.
Mm-hmm.
But even besides that, there's just a lot of weird calls, random fouls, such as towards the end of that Lakers Grizzlies game. The fact that in that Lakers Grizzlies game, both challenges were used by both teams, and
Mm-hmm.
both of the calls were overturned. Says a lot about how the refs are doing their job as well.
I, you know what? I'm gonna still say that they're doing better,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I guess maybe I haven't been able to see the games that have really shown their flaws. It's funny because we're like critiquing refs, but I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I want to get back more into the James Harden thing, but
Mm-hmm.
other than his inability to not get those calls anymore, like I said, I think he looks overweight or just
Mm-hmm.
not in basketball shape anymore, and I think his hamstring injury is still bothering him
Yeah,
too.
he looks noticeably slow, and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't really get much lift off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And, while neither one of those things were things that were major in his game, like he wasn't a super athlete before, and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't super speedy and quick before, he still had reasonable vertical and reasonable quickness, and he had really good change of pace at least.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, it doesn't seem like either of those things are really there. Part of it could be, like you said, him not looking in game shape. And then
Yeah.
also part of it is probably because the hamstring is still bothering him, hasn't fully healed. Probably has to do with the fact that he's significantly older now. He's 32. So, your body's not going to just perfectly bounce back the same.
Right. I mean, I feel bad for KD because this man is having to carry that team right now. James Harden being so bad.
Oh, yeah. KD, I really thought that there was no way he could put up an MVP type of year because Harden was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing the way Harden is right now, I think it's highly possible that KD could win MVP this year.
Yeah. I think they should do anything in their power to try to get Kyrie though to get back on that team because they need him. They need him really bad.
You see, and I definitely agree that for their sake, they need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't realistically seeing it happen. I don't think the local government is going to change their policies for Kyrie. And
No, definitely not.
and I don't think Kyrie is going to change his ideology for the team. He seems far too firm in his beliefs to do that.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, like I said, I think it's still worth the try because, like I said, they do need him. They need him to come back and do whatever James Harden's not able to do at the moment until he finds some way to get back into. I wouldn't even say his old form because he can't go back to that old form no more. He has to find something new, and I think with those fouls not being called, I think that takes away from his other game, like his step back game, because when he's getting those fouls called, it allows him or allows the defender to kind of sag off more a little bit because they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to get caught trailing the defender and having to swipe at the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think they're able to play him a little closer where that step back isn't as effective anymore. But I don't know. It just James Harden isn't James Harden no more. He has to find a new James Harden.
Yeah, he needs to find some kind of way to adapt. And I mean, he at the end of the day, he's a top 10 NBA player when fully healthy, so he can find his way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how long is it gonna take.
Right. I feel like it might take another whole 2 to 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
possibly,
It could
maybe
be
even longer.
weeks, it could be months, but let's just see.
Yeah. So we have some extra time. Do you want to kind of do that topic that we were talking about?
Uh,
I can do some names and we'll see.
yeah, let's just get a few quick ones out.
All right. So I'm gonna rattle off some names and kind of do like a verses, and Isaiah's gonna go ahead and give his thoughts. I don't know if you want to do a little quick in-depth thing about him or
Yeah, I was gonna keep it relatively
okay.
short. Yeah.
Okay. Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal?
Ooh, now if you remember my top 25, I had Zach LaVine over Bradley Beal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to keep it that way. Zach
Okay.
LaVine's battling a thumb injury at the moment, I believe. So I think that's part of the reason why he struggled so far in
Mm-hmm.
some of the games more recently. But Zach LaVine, when at his usual level, is Bradley Beal, but more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give the edge to Zach LaVine there.
Okay. I'm gonna try to keep this like very similar type players too, but
Mm-hmm.
there might be some out there that aren't, similar.
Okay.
Um, Jaylen Brown or Michael Porter Jr.?
I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. He's shown a lot more on the ball ability than Michael Porter Jr. has.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, he's shown very good very good showings without having a great playmaker to
Mm-hmm.
help him. Whereas Michael Porter Jr. is playing with quite possibly the greatest passing center of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to take away some credit from him for that. So yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
go Jaylen Brown.
Okay. DeAndre Ayton or Bam Adebayo?
Ooh, ooh. Offense versus defense. I think I'll give the edge to Bam here. DeAndre Ayton has a big problem to me, and it's that he looks really passive and soft sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I'm going to give the edge to Bam because
Mm-hmm.
when I have watched him, I've never seen him look like he was passive or kind of scared to go up. It's just if he had a bad game when I was watching, it's just he was off that night. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that he didn't have the aggressiveness to have a good game.
He just kind of knew when to stop when he wasn't it wasn't going in for him. So
Exactly.
I can see that. I kind of was leaning towards Ayton on that one myself, but I guess you're right with the. Well, I guess I could see your point with the offensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Murray, De'Aaron Fox.
I'm gonna give the edge to Jamal Murray.
Okay.
Jamal Murray has looked very impressive when he has played, whereas
Mm-hmm.
De'Aaron Fox, he has had a real consistency problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Jamal Murray is definitely still benefiting from that explosion that he had in the playoffs in the
Yeah.
bubble, where De'Aaron Fox has never had anything even similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give the edge to Jamal Murray because of that and because he's a shooter, whereas
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox is not a shooter by any definition of the word.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm going to go Jamal Murray.
Okay. Devin Booker. I'll say Zach LaVine again.
I'm I still want to go Zach LaVine because Devin Booker, for one, he's not as efficient of a scorer as Zach LaVine is.
Mm-hmm.
And then his playmaking is just too shoddy to me. He has times where he gets tunnel vision and doesn't play make at all. And then he has times where he has good vision and he's making a lot of plays to get assists. And then you look at it and he's also getting a lot of turnovers at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if Devin Booker could clean up those assists and turnovers, or could just be a more efficient scorer, then I would pick him. But
Mm-hmm.
until then, Zach LaVine doesn't force assist as much, even though he does still get turnovers sometimes, but it's less because of trying to force playmaking.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he's when healthy, far more efficient than Devin Booker is. So I'm going Zach LaVine.
Right. So I got two more here for you.
Mm-hmm.
LaMelo or Lonzo?
Ooh. uh, the LaMelo Lonzo one is funny because the way that I've conceptualized the two of them compared to each other is
Mm-hmm.
that Lonzo is the better all around player, but
Mm-hmm.
LaMelo is the better player. Lonzo, he'll come out, he'll give you solid offensive contribution in terms of points. He'll give
Mm-hmm.
you good to great playmaking. You'll get some boards from him. You'll get good defense from him. And just you get a whole bunch of everything. Whereas LaMelo, you'll get moderate defense from him most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's on, you can get exceptional playmaking and exceptional scoring from him.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I have to give him the edge.
Okay. I'm yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last one, I think this one's a lot closer than people think, but Julius Randle or Christian Wood?
Ooh. I think I'm gonna go Julius Randle.
Okay.
Outside of, the fact that he led his team to the playoffs last year, because that's a team feat, and everybody knows the Rockets are not necessarily a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
But as an individual player, Julius Randle seems to be a noticeably better playmaker than Christian Wood.
Right.
So I'm going to give him the edge, one, because of that. Two, he seems to be more consistent somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give him the edge because of that. And lastly, I'm going to give him the edge because this year he's definitely seemed to have improved his defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
So with those three things, I'm going to give him the edge over Christian Wood.
I'm gonna give it to Randle too.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think this is a lot closer than it is. Like when people might think it is, just because I'm sure people are thinking about his season last year of how great he was.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back at it, Christian Wood was having an amazing year last year. He was probably going to be an all-star before he got hurt.
Okay.
And I think Christian Wood could be an all-star this year too. He hasn't played probably as good as last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if him and the team could gel together a little bit more, I think Christian Wood could boost his stats and just boost his player, all around, and that'll probably bring him at the level of Julius Randle. I know he's not nowhere near the playmaker Julius Randle is because Christian Wood's more of a, I wouldn't say catch and shoot, but he just doesn't play make like that.
He's a score first kind of guy.
Right. So, and I think Christian Wood's defense has gotten a little better too.
Yeah,
not like much, but it's a little noticeable. I guess you have to really watch Rockets games to notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think, like I said, it's kind of close, more than people think.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's close, just because of the way Christian Wood is playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when Christian Wood is on and at his best, then yeah, it can be close then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that also ties into the recency bias though,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. But I don't know. It just, to me, my personal opinion, it's kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those were the players that I kind of had for you. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, that's everything that I have for right now.
Okay. All right, well, that's going to go ahead and be the end of the podcast. If you like the podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe and comment down below. Isaiah, any last comments?
Don't forget, share the videos with your friends, anybody you know that likes basketball or likes Rockets basketball specifically. Please share it with them. Help get the podcast out there so we can keep making great episodes for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Drop some comments down below too, about some constructive criticism or anything like that. Anything you'll want to see, or just anything in general, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, we'll catch y'all in the next episode next week. See y'all later.